Hi and welcome to a new video. In this video is continuation of the series that I'm doing on the ZenWiFi Pro ET12. So that's the Asus Wi-Fi 6E mesh system. So that includes, like, I'll link to the playlist of videos where I've unboxed and we've gone through the setup as well using the app. I've been quite impressed. Now I've been using this for quite a long time. The actual system, so I've got it set up and I've been doing some tests, so I've got more videos coming around doing speed tests and around the distance and around a few of the other things as well. But as usual, as I like to do, is actually have a look at the web interface and then go through the settings, because this one is a little bit different, because this is not one the same as our GT-AX 11000, or it's not one of the Republic of Gaming Asus routers. So that one has a different interface and then has a gaming kind of specific features on there. This is more of a home Wi-Fi system, and it centers around the new Wi-Fi 6E. So it includes the 2.4, the 5 gigahertz, and then the new 6 gigahertz frequency. And I have been testing it as well with my new tablet that's got Wi-Fi 6E included in it. So as you can see here, you just go to the normal domain on your browser. So that's 192.168.50.1. You sign in with your username and password. You can normally have set this up as you saw in the previous video, so you customize this so it's more secure, and then people can actually, even if they do get into your Wi-Fi by any chance, they won't be able to change any of the settings in your actual router. So you just, as you usually do, is your username and login, and you sign in, and then you'll be greeted with the interface. So this is a similar interface that you can see here that we do have on the other routers that we've got from Asus. So one good thing is that you always have got a standard format. So it's always quite straightforward. If you've used Asus routers before in the past, then you know how to use majority of them. And you can see here it's got a few of the normal features we've got. And as I said, it does have the ones here we normally see on the Republic or the GTX 11000 and the other gaming specific routers. Those ones there are normally have got their gaming like features and everything else to make your Xbox and your PlayStation and then your PC that you're playing any games on more bit quicker and everything else. So, but as we said, this one is more of a mesh network system. So if we continue here, we can see this is your landing page. So you do have the option, if you want to go through setup again, you have the option here to go through here. It does tell you what mode your router's in, the firmware version, and then you'll see your network names. So I've got named mine the 2.4, the 5 and the 6. Of course these will be different for each of yours. You've got the logout, the reboot, and of course they've got several languages, so it covers all the languages you could think of. I can think here, so that's good to see. Again, you got straight away, you can see your different Wi-Fi networks, the encryption methods and everything else, and then your passwords and everything else and information, so you can easily update them just from the start of the screen. Then you have the status. So this will show you, this is, as we said before, is a quad core processor in here, so it's plenty fast for dealing with your Wi-Fi. And don't forget, each of the unlike other makes of mesh networks, they normally do a cut down version on their mesh. So they have the powerful router that's plugged into your modem, and then the other ones around are just going to be less powerful. But in this case, yes, it is quite expensive, this ET12 Wi-Fi Pro, but you're paying for it because you're actually getting two full routers basically. So both of them have got the same RAM, the same quad core processors, and everything is all built into their same ports and everything. So this is why you're paying the actual premium. And again, if it is out of your means of spend right now, and of course it has got the Wi-Fi 6E built into it, just give it some time. As like most of new technology, it'll come down in price, and you might be able to get it a little bit cheaper as well. But as we know, there's currently with the problems with different in stock and things like that, if you can get hold of this, then I advise that if you are looking for a mesh system compared to some of the others from Netgear, TP-Link and everything else, this is probably the better one I've seen so far, especially with ports and everything that's included. Okay, so as we said, we've got the CPU quad core here, so it tells you each of the cores and what percentage they're working. As you see, I have got 35 clients currently connected. And I've got my one other node, that's your other AiMesh router that's connected. So it's got plenty of devices connected. You can see it's not really working too hard. It's using up over half the memory. So total you've got about 1 gigabyte of RAM. So you can see I'm using currently 603, and I haven't got a few of these features switched on. But normally it won't go over this, probably go to about 700 maximum. Then you can see down here the Ethernet ports as well, so you can see what's plugged in. So you can see I've got my WAN, so that's your internet to my the ISP route modem. That's at 1 gigabit per second, the same as my LAN, and then I'm using the 2.5 gigabits per second to my 10 gigabit switch that I have. So I'm making full use of the connection here. The connection I'm currently using, so the setup I've currently got with this one is the AiMesh node is currently using the 6 gigahertz frequency to actually connect both of them together. So that's how I'm actually connecting both the mesh system right now. Of course, it's for optimum, it's best to use the Ethernet cables if you can, but of course not everyone has Ethernet cables running around their houses or lucky enough. So if you are, then it is probably always advisable to use the Ethernet connection to connect any mesh systems together. So that's the front page, as you can see here. Then we go on to AiMesh. So this is the whole thing part of the system. So you can see here, you've got there your first one here, and then you've got your node. So you can see how many clients are connected, and then you've got there your first one, that's the home, and then your second one, the home here. And you can click on these as well, and it'll show you what devices are connected. So currently, as I'm testing this, I haven't got anything connected to the second one. But of course, they all come up here with no devices, and you can then filter down which ones are wired and which ones are wireless. So it's quite good. And again, the actual operation, the AiMesh as well, is really easy to use. This new version 2.0 from Asus. It makes things much easier. You do have an optimization, so you just click that and it will optimize the connection and everything. You can see the connection quality between these two, so of course it will be excellent if you've got Ethernet connected, but currently as I said, I'm using the 6 gigahertz frequency to connect these two. You do have the clients, as we said. Then you've got a next one here, you've got network. So again, this is the uplink, so it will show you how it's connected. So as again I said, it's wireless using the 6 gigahertz, and then it will give you the information down here. So it will give you the transmit speed and the receive speed, so the connection between the two routers, so you can see. So that's plenty fast, it's actually connecting by. Then you've got management, so then you can switch off the LED lights on the actual whichever node you've got selected. Again, you can select the backhaul connection priority. You do have help here, so where you see the eye, you can just hover your mouse over and it'll give you a brief explanation, like you've got auto, Ethernet first or Wi-Fi first. So it just gives you an explanation if you're not too sure. As you can see here, I want it always to try and use the 6 gigahertz first, so I've got that set as a priority instead of auto. And then again, you've got over here, you've got different ones about the preferred Wi-Fi uplink AP, and that will take you to the actual router's login. You've got all the different functions here as well for that one, so you can remove it. you can reboot it, and again the optimization, and then switch control, and then the radio, so you can actually switch off the 2.4 or 5 if you're not using them, things like that. But it's best to, if you are having any issues, then probably best to leave all these standard, unless you're in my position, like I'm connecting. I definitely want them to connect by 6 gigahertz. So then instead of leaving it on auto, I advise just to click on 6 Wi-Fi first. So that means it will always try and use that as a priority to connect both of them. So you try and get maximum speed. But again, using 6 gigahertz, don't forget, as the issue is that we're over distance. But to be honest, I've not had any issues between them. This is one's on the first floor on the front of the house, and one's on the very back of the house on the second floor, and it's going through about 3 walls as well, so they're quite some distance. So, and it's still connecting quite well, as you can see the speed it was connecting. Then you do have system settings. So again here, if you want, as we said, you're mentioning about you connecting by Ethernet, then you can click here and this will toggle on to using the Ethernet backhaul mode. And again, you've got the I button there, so you just hover your mouse over and it'll give you a good explanation of what's happening. And you've got a roaming block list, and then you've got system reset, and then again your system reboot. The block list literally tries to block, so if you don't want your devices switching between the 2 different routers, you want, say, your phone or your tablet or whatever device always connected to the main router, then you can block it from connecting to one of the other nodes, so it always connects to the other one. So as we said, it's very straightforward and it's really good. As we said on the setup video, that if you do get this as a mesh system, they automatically come paired together already, so it makes life even more easy for you. Next is the guest network. So again, you've got your guest network, so you can set up guest for 2.4, the 5 and the 6, and you can see here where you can enable the actual guest networks as well. So it's good to see now you've also got on the 6 gigahertz as well. Of course, there's not many devices still using Wi-Fi 6E, but this will future-proof you for many years to come. So yes, it's a initial outlay of money, but this will keep you going and have all the basically the features, and will be supported for many years to come. Next is we have AI protection. So as you can see here, so this one gives you the router security assessment, as we've seen in other videos from other Asus routers. So this is one of the better ones. We've done a test before on checking how good it was. It does pick up on quite a bit as well. Again, it does have, don't take it as using as the ultimate security, so always make sure you do have antivirus actually installed on your computers as well. And it's easy enough, so just to enable it, you just click here to enable on. It may give you some terms and conditions. I know people are sometimes a bit apprehensive. When you do switch this on, it does give you some terms and conditions where it says that your data will go to the actual Trend Micro that actually look after it. So of course they need your data to actually analyze it, to understand if it's a threat or not, and then basically tell your router. So that's where the information is going. Again, it's up to you if you decide to use these features and what you actually think about your privacy and security and everything else. That's a personal choice. We've got again, so each of these actually has a separate tab where you can click on and you can go into more detail. So when you start getting more information and everything else, these will all start to be logged here, and again you can save or you can clear the logs as well, so it's always good to see. But it's a good feature to have anyway. Basically it just gives you a quick scan, so you can scan it and then it will give you some ideas, like you've got WPS disabled and it'll say no. So these kind of functions perhaps you need to disable on there, as well as port forwarding. Next we go on to parental controls. So again, here is you can actually filter the parental controls for web app and filter. Again, it's just a toggle of switching it on and it loads up. As you can see, it is pretty fast on loading all these features on and getting started. And then you can then select the device from here and then what kind of category you want to actually add the content filtering for. And then again, it's for time scheduling. So if you want to schedule any devices, so if you have children or if you have certain devices you don't want connecting to the internet at a certain time, you can schedule this and block the devices as well. So it's always good to actually see that they do cover everything here. And again, this is more of a general home user mesh system, so it's good to see they actually include all these as standard. Next is we've got quality of service. So as we've seen before, this will give you a list of all your devices, and it'll give you like a quick bandwidth monitor. So it'll show you here the uploads and download speeds of currently what's going through your internet, and breaks it down by the actual device as well on here as well. So that's good to see. Then you've got the quality of service. You can switch that on, and then that you can either have it on adaptive, traditional, or bandwidth limiter. And you can see here it gives you an explanation, so I won't go through them. So you can pause the video and read them for yourself. And again, you can just either, if you do want to switch it on, then you can just select whichever one you feel is more appropriate. So again, for faster video streaming experience like YouTube and Netflix, it gives you good examples of which ones you think you are on here. And also the new one they've got is for working from home, so that's good to see because plenty of people are doing that. Then you've got web history, so you can switch this on. As said, it shows you client web surfing history. So if you want to log all the basically websites you go to, you want to keep a history of that, then just chance there. Again, you've got the it's quite good, the speed test. So this one, as you can see, my closest one's London, and you can do a speed test. So you can see I did mine probably a little while ago now, but you can see it gives you a good download, upload, and the ping rate as well. So you can see, and you can do this test a few times, and you've got a choice of different servers as well where you can do the speed test. So you're not limited just to one, you can choose some. Next we go on to traffic analyzer. So this is, I always normally switch this one on because this is always really good to see what devices are using as much internet as possible. And normally it's going to be my iPhone or my computer, or the Ring, basically the doorbell, and then what kind of traffic it's doing as well. So it gives you an idea on this chart. So that's good to see. And it's good in visual as well, so you can look straight away and see what's happening on your network. If you're thinking, like I did, I had an issue where I had bought one of these cheap smart power strips, and then I realized it was actually uploading about 1 gigabyte of data a week. That didn't seem normal to me. Even if you were manually switching it on remotely, it didn't really make sense why it was uploading so much data. So I decided to just unplug it and actually buy a better branded one as well. So it gives you good perhaps insights into your network that you probably not normally see. Next we go on to the advanced settings. We've got the wireless, the LAN, the WAN. You've got Amazon Alexa, IP version 6, VPN, firewall, administration, system log, and network tools. So as we go on here, we go into wireless. So as you can see here, like previous, and again it's the same standard you may have seen as well through my previous videos. Here you can go into the more advanced breakdown of actually all the settings for each of your wireless channels, all the way to from the 2.4, the 5, and the 6 gigahertz. And you can see here where you can enable certain features. So like you can see now we're on the 6 gigahertz frequency with Wi-Fi 6E. You only have WPA3 now as an option. So previously with the older generations you got WPA2 and WPA3. So that's one thing I would do. It doesn't default normally to this option, and I've had no issues. So I would advise that for security, well, a lot of devices now are getting updated, their software and things like that, so they're capable of WPA3 encryption. So for more security, I would advise perhaps just leaving this, changing this from WPA2 to WPA2, WPA3 personal. So at least then, if your device is capable of the better encryption, it gives you better security. So I don't believe this is set by default, so that's one thing I would advise perhaps you can actually switch on. WPS here as well, so this is the actual button that you press on your device, and then it will connect and everything else. it is advised that this has got a lot of security issues, so it is advised to actually perhaps have this actually switched off and not switched on your actual router. So I think I've only just left it on because I was testing all the different features and everything. We've got WDS, so basically, as we said, this is the bridge, this is the wireless distribution system. Again, I won't go into so much detail and everything else. You'll be able to read up here if this is applicable for you with your access point, considering it's a repeater mode as well. Wireless MAC filter is a security feature where you can select the network and then add the devices that you want. You can switch this on, yes. And then extra security, so no new devices will be able to connect to your network once you set this, unless you add them onto this list here. So it's an extra security feature. It's not foolproof, but I mean, it's there to probably stop majority of people that are trying to get onto your Wi-Fi and things like that. It's an extra security feature. Radius settings, again, this is for enterprise, so I won't go into much detail, but it does have that feature there if you do have a radius and you do have perhaps pfSense set up or something like that, then you can use this feature. Professional, so again, this is your same as the general tab, but this is for Wi-Fi. Again, you can see it goes into much more detail on the actual settings here, and you can then select what network you want as well. So you can then select the 6, and you can see here. Again, I've managed to leave most of these as default. The only things I have changed on the 6 and the 5 is that I know for compatibility, ASUS as standard normally only comes with download only. So I've switched this to download and upload and multiple user input and output. So you can look that up. I'll put that on screen what that means actually. So you can pause the video, but that feature I think gives you more bandwidth and everything else, and all devices talking all at the same time. It's one of the new features, and I have not had any issues. I think they switch it off, or they switch it only to download for compatibility of older devices, but most of my devices haven't had no issues, so I've left that on. And again, you can customize this for each of the bands, so if you're having issues with older devices on 2.4, then you can switch it off. Then we have the roaming block list, so it's the same as we saw under AiMesh. So this is where you can deny certain devices swapping over to different routers that are in your house or connected to the AiMesh system. Next we go down to LAN. So here, as you can see here, we've got the host name. So this is what's going to show up when we normally open up your File Explorer window in Windows or Mac Finder window. So this is the name of the router, so you can always change this as well if you don't want the default name. Then we have this is the DHCP server, so this gives you your IP address to all your devices. I've set this up a little bit more strange just because I've been testing it, so I've been using the modem that I've got with with my ISP. So I've got this up a little bit different, but yeah, yours should be roughly the same, and there's no need really to change it from the default unless you have got any issues with the IP assignment, but you can change them here. Then we have the route here as well. So this basically function allows you to add routing rules to basically the Wi-Fi system. Again, I won't go into much detail, but this option is here if you do need it. IPTV, so again, since some updates, they've added a lot more networks here now. For profiles you can add, and also this function here is if you're in the UK or whichever other country as well, where sometimes I know that I think specifically a Vodafone fiber broadband, they ask if you want to use a third-party router. You normally have to set up a VLAN number as well, so you can do that using this. So all you do is you basically come here, you choose manual settings, and where it's got internet, you can basically type your number here, and it will then have your VLAN set up as well on there. So that's good to see that you can use that. Then we have switch control. So we do have bonding and link aggregations. That means combining the two ports on the Ethernet ports on the back of the router, so that's good to see that that actually function is there. They don't support on this one jumbo frames, but to be honest, I don't think majority of people will be benefiting from that anyway, so it's no great loss. Onto WAN. So again, WAN is your internet port connected onto the back of the router. You've got all your details here. This is where you can set everything up. Again, this just gives you the basic setup that you shouldn't really need to change once you've gone through the setup process. There should be nothing here really, unless you do want to have a look on here. So where you can see here, this is the DNS privacy. So this is quite interesting to have, and they've got the option there as well for you to actually have set up. So this secures your internet browsing as well to any DNS servers. So basically encrypts it as it goes through. So that's a good option to have. And if you do want to do that, you can assign the different services. Dual WAN, so as it says, you can set up 2 ports for your WAN. So basically you can set your primary and then another port on the back, Ethernet port, as your secondary. So if you do have 2 internet connections, they can fall over to each other, just in case if one basic goes offline. You have port triggering as well as port forwarding. Basically they're the same kind of thing. So you can set up port forwarding for certain devices, as you can then connect them, and then so they'll always have basically a port to go out to the internet if you need to do anything. So it's always better to, if you are going to set up something, to try and choose a random port as well for security, instead of keeping it to the standard one. You have DMZ set up. So again, this is if you've got a device on your network that you want access to the internet, but it doesn't go through the firewall or have any protection. Again, this is really not advised unless you really know what you're doing, because this just opens up that device to the internet, and then anyone can scan it and access it. So you need to make sure that you know what you're doing if you switch this on. Again, we have the dynamic DNS. So it gives you the option here if you want to switch it on, and then it gives you the free Let's Encrypt certificate. So it's really good. I think one of the best features that they've implemented with ASUS makes it more straightforward, is that you can actually have a secure certificate. So when you access the HTTPS, you've already got your certificate, and it auto renews it as well for you. So it's really good to see. And then finally, you've got the NAT pass-through. So again, these are the pass-through for your NAT to go through. So you can see you could relay these ones here. Majority of these are for VPN connections, as you can see here, and they're all enabled mostly by default. If you want to, you can disable the ones if you're not going to be using any VPN or any other of these services. Moving on, next is to Amazon Alexa. So again, as you can see here, you can set up your Amazon Alexa, and these are the countries that are supported. So on this list here, so if you're one of these, you can then support it, and you can see here where you can say ask my router to turn on guest network, or ask my router to upgrade the firmware. So it's quite cool. You can get it to upgrade your firmware by asking it. That's quite cool. I would like to see if it would be nice to have Google, because I don't have Alexa, so it would be to see some other company orientation added on would be nice. Then we have the IPv6 again. There's basically this, you can then enable if your ISP or your internet has support for IPv6, so that's just for the IPs. So you can set it up here, and these are the options here where you've got, I think before my old internet service provider, it was tunnel 6 to 4, but I think that's the most common one, but you have all these features here as well if you do need to. VPN, so again we've got the VPNs here. We've got the PPTP, OpenVPN and IPsec VPN. Again, like in previous videos, I've recommended don't use the PPTP. It might be very straightforward, but it's not very secure at all. So you've got several options here. You've got OpenVPN, where you can actually go in there, switch on the server. Yes, it's a bit more complicated. You have to download the config file and things like that. Then you have this one. So this one is actually more compatible if you have Apple devices, and even on Android and things like that, and Windows also support this kind of standard, and it's secure as well. There is other ones here they've got. So you've got a VPN client. So again, you've got their VPN clients are often used to connect to a VPN server. So basically you've got things here. They're giving you an example of some devices like set-top boxes, smart TVs and Blu-ray players do not support VPN software. So using this one, you can actually set up using, as long as your VPN service provider, I presume like NordVPN and Private Access and a few of the others, you allow you to download profiles and you can upload them to this area here, and then set it so your TV or your set-top box or your IPTV box or whatever connects by the VPN. So that's always good to see as well, and it just directs it as well through the VPN. That's a really good feature. And again, lastly, you've got here the Instant Guard. So this is Asus' own VPN app, and this is brilliant, to be honest. You can't really go wrong. You literally set this up. You do have to enable, so you have to download the Asus router app as well to connect through everything. But here you can then just switch it on, download the app, the Instant Guard app from Asus, and then click the button and bam, you've got a VPN. It's back to your network. So it makes it so much more user friendly if you don't want the time and trouble of setting up a VPN server with the other tab. You've got this one here, so it's always good to have. Okay, so and then moving on to Firewall again. So as you probably know, Firewall and everything else. Again, most of these you probably will not need to actually change anything here. Again, by default, a denial of service protection is switched off because it does use more memory and CPU power. But to be honest, with all of our routers nowadays have got quite enough RAM and also processing power. You can easily switch this on without degrading any performance for your network, and it always gives you an extra bit of protection as well. So I always come in here into the firewall, and this is one of the other options I normally switch to yes, and I've never noticed anything that has affected the performance. You've got your URL filters, so this filters your web addresses, so you can type in something there and it'll block that. Same as instead of being a URL, this one's a keyword, so you can type in whatever naughty words you want to filter out. You don't want people looking on your network on the internet. And then again, you've got the network services, so here's where you've got a schedule and a more detailed information, where in that list do you want them to, as that allow list or deny list, and then the times and the days as well. So again, you've got a lot of information here, and you can customize it to all you want. We're nearly there. So then to administration, where you've got the breakdown of the different operational modes that you want for this. So as you do notice that this is an AiMesh system, and you will have a look here, so you think, oh, AiMesh router in AP mode. So yeah, so I've got, this comes as standard as this one here as default. You can, on the other device, it will be a AiMesh node when it's set up. But again, as I said, both of them are actually fully working routers. So this is why you're paying the extra money, because you're getting two of exactly the same performance devices, to be honest, not one full performance and the other one cut down like some of the other manufacturers. So that's why you're paying the extra money. Then we've got the system. So then here you can see change your login, your password. Again, there's not many features I actually switch on and off here. I think on most of these you can leave these as basically as default. Again, if you want to be extra secure, I'll probably do another video in future on how to secure your router. Again, you can then customize your ports and everything else down here to make your router more secure as well when accessing it, and you can do that here. But just be careful when you do change into these ports, it will kick you out, and then you've got to remember which port you've actually remembered. You do again have DNS queries here. I know there have been some issues of where they're actually being pinged into. I think I've seen some videos on YouTube where people are concerned that these are pinging to a server in China or something like that. Again, here you can just basically choose your own, and it's quite good to have network monitoring so it understands when it's connected to the internet, when it's not, and you can choose here like Google. So of course this will ping every time that's on there for your Google device. Then you have your firmware upgrade. So again, you can have auto firmware upgrade. Then you have, I normally, again, like I said, I normally have that switched off, and you've got the check for signature. So that's for your AI protection. And then again, your check for the firmware. And it'll check both, if you've got multiple nodes, it'll check for everything on here all on one page. You have your restore, save and upload settings. So you can, this is where you factory restore your actual routers, and you can save the settings for another time and restore them from here as well. You do have a feedback, so again they welcome feedback at ASUS, so you can give any information that you want to feedback to them, especially if you're having issues. They might ask you for these logs, but again it's only if you've been requested, so don't normally send this. And then we do have the privacy policy. Like we said, there is some issues where the information will be sent to other third parties, and it's good to see that they've got it here. If you do choose to use the service and you decide to change your mind, you can withdraw from the privacy tab, so your data won't be collected or anything like that. Then we have the system log. So this goes through all your different general logs, and the log for wireless, your leases for your DHCP server that gives you IP addresses, and port forwarding and connections. So you've got all these logs here. If you really do want information and trying to troubleshoot, then you've got all the information you need onto the system log. And lastly, we've got network tools, where we have the network analysis. So this is where if your internet's playing up, you can ping a website, and it'll see if you can diagnose the connection, it's connecting properly to the internet. And then again, you have all the different features here for NetStat, Wake on LAN. So if your device, your laptop or your desktop or server you've got goes to sleep, you can automatically wake it up if it supports Wake on LAN. And then lastly, you have the advanced features for the Smart Connect rule. So this is where you toggle it on in the Wi-Fi settings, so all your channels go under one name instead of being split over 3. And this gives you a fine-tuning of how this all works. Again, this is probably best left as default, but you can play around with this if you want to. Just be wary that it can affect your Wi-Fi and everything, make it even worse sometimes. So it's best to just be careful what you're doing. And then we've got these buttons up here, so you can see when you're connected to the Ethernet, your guest network is enabled, and you've got all the different quality of service, and then you've got the app as well. And there normally is another flashing one here up here if you have any upgrades on your firmware. Okay, so I know it's been another long video, but I want to go through all the different features. As you can see here, actually on here it does include a lot. And to be said, all it does exclude is the gaming features. Okay, so again, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks for watching and have a great day.